What is up, people? Welcome back to hopefully another riveting episode of the LNBE podcast, where LNBE stands for literally nothing but everything, and I'm Mike Rispoli. But if you would be so kind, make sure that you guys like and subscribe to the show if you guys are enjoying it. Maybe share it with a friend, help get out some exposure that way. You can also find me at the LNBE pod on both TikTok and Instagram. There's really not much action on those platforms, but I am working through it. Starting to figure it out a little bit better. With the help of my friend, you know who you are, and I really appreciate it. And if you want to write in, you can do so at lnbemedia@gmail.com. And with that, let's kind of get this bitch started. You might notice that the energy is not as upbeat as it normally might be, but that's just because I am fucking exhausted. I thought I was going to have to work the bar on Friday night just doing the door, but I ended up having to bartend because the normal bartender on wasn't feeling well, so I got called to be a backup, and we got fucking slammed, dude. It was wild. No joke, we had two back-to-back crowds of 20 come in, right at, it was 11 o'clock. I don't know what it is, but around 11 o'clock, that's when the swarm always tends to come in. And we didn't think that it was going to be that big of a crowd because the weather wasn't looking that great, so we're like, oh, probably nobody's going to be going out, but I don't know if word got out that kind of two newbies behind the bar were working, so they were hoping that they would be getting some free shit. So they all just kind of came in, but we were able to weather the storm. As two newbies, I gotta give me and the other bartender credit. I thought we did pretty well. The owner said that we did pretty well, so I'm not totally unhappy. You might be thinking, oh, well, 40 people really isn't that much. Well, it was way more than 40, because you also have to take into account for who was already there, plus the other people that were trickling in as the night continued. So we probably actually had about 60 people at the bar total that night. And considering we were only allowed 70 in there, we had full capacity, so it was kind of wild. A few minor hiccups that I got to work on, but otherwise, nothing that I can't do with more time behind there. So, progress in all aspects. What I got going on with my new job, this podcast, the bartending side gig, progress all around. Isn't that all you can hope for in life is just to continuously do better at whatever you're trying to do, including the game of life? But alright, even though I'm tired, it's still not going to avoid me from trying to put out this episode this week. So, just considering the fact that I talked about him a couple weeks ago when I went on to that whole thing about the Negro Leagues and Babe Ruth, I got to talk about how Willie Mays passed last week. I was actually looking into Willie Mays' stats, and basing off of that episode with Babe Ruth, I could probably make the argument that Willie Mays was probably the better all-around baseball player than Babe Ruth was. I mean, everybody uses Babe Ruth as the standard, where if you put Babe Ruth in any era, he would be able to play, and I don't necessarily think that. I mean, let's look at the numbers. If home runs was the standard and Babe Ruth hit 714, Willie Mays hit 660, but Willie Mays also lost 2 years because he had it during the draft, and I'm assuming that was for Korea. So he went off to war in Korea, he lost 2 years. Let's say he hits 30 home runs each of those years, he surpasses Ruth's number. I mean, up until the 70s when Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's record, Babe Ruth was the standard, right? But if Willie Mays had actually broken the record prior to Hank Aaron, who's to say that Willie Mays wouldn't have been the standard up until that point in time? So, I don't know. Plus, you could also say that Willie Mays played in a much harder era. I mean, Willie Mays came up in the 50s. He was playing against greats. I mean, who was playing at that time? Willie Mays was playing up against Ted Williams, Sandy Koufax, Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle. I mean, that era of baseball is elite. Whereas Ruth came up, he was playing against guys like Lefty Grove. Cobb was right at the end of Ruth's career, but I guess they played together. And Lou Gehrig is another big one, but Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth played on the same team, so it's not like he was going up against him. I think the caliber of play was a little bit stronger in Willie Mays' era than it was in Babe Ruth's era. Now, the only thing that's holding against this argument is the fact that Ruth also pitched. So the fact that Ruth could pitch, he played right field, and he batted like crazy, that's probably why people define him as the greatest all-around player. But I don't know, Willie Mays has some stats up to himself too. I mean, the dude was an amazing outfielder. He made one of the best catches ever in a World Series game. It's actually called The Catch if you just want to look it up on YouTube. It's a fantastic catch over the shoulder out in center field. But what's amazing about the catch is he was actually playing the batter shallow. So he had to make up ground to get even to the ball. And he ended up having to run 90 feet just to get to the play. Plus, additionally, like sports science, according to it, they've broken down the math. He was able to run like 14 miles an hour to even get there. So that tells you something. There's a reason why I think he was like a 14-time All Star. I mean, it's pretty amazing. But hopefully, if I play my cards right, at some point I will eventually be able to say hey to the Say Hey kid. So rest in peace, Willie Mays. I honestly don't know where baseball would be without you. Like, really. But also, I saw that Jerry West died, and I mean, I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but considering he is on the NBA logo, you got to give a shout out to him. I know the dude was a fantastic player. I just don't really know that much about basketball. I haven't really looked into his stats, but I do know he's a Hall of Famer. So rest in peace to Jerry West as well. And also, Donald Sutherland passed away too. So it's like within the span of a week, we had 3 legends just pass. And when I saw the news about Donald Sutherland at work, I was like, oh my God, Donald Sutherland died? And my coworker was like, oh yeah, I saw that, but I don't even really know who. I'm like, well, if you know anything recent, he was in the Hunger Games films. If you've ever seen Animal House, he was the professor in Animal House, and she was like, I'd never seen it. I'm like, oh my God. For anybody who has not seen Animal House, I know it's an... But seriously, you gotta do yourself a favor and check this fucking movie out. It is so funny. Like, there are so many classic quotes. Did the Americans give up when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Or there's a scene... They convince one of the characters to let them use his dad's car for some excursion that they're going on. And they ended up fucking up the car, obviously. So when they get it out and they bring it to the mechanic shop, one of the characters goes, hey, you fucked up. You trusted us. And that's just giving you a taste. Like, those aren't even, like, the best scenes in the movie. So seriously, take it upon yourself. If you want to watch, like, a really funny movie that's just a bunch of skits all put together as like the first of its kind. Like, honestly, even a movie maybe like Step Brothers wouldn't exist without this movie. Like, I'm telling you guys, if you want to see something as to like where it came from initially, you gotta watch Animal House. I don't know. I just hope that John Belushi and Donald Sutherland are up in heaven smoking a J. And just saying rest in peace to one of the great ones. Alright, and with that, let's kind of move on to something a little bit more fun and exciting. So last week, the internet was also taken by storm by who we have all unbeknowingly dubbed as the Hawk Tuah girl. And if you don't know the video, if you haven't seen it, which I'd be shocked if you haven't, but pretty much what happened was this guy was on the street, he was doing an interview, he was just like, oh, what's that thing that gets a guy, like, weak in bed or something like that? And she's just like, oh, you know, you just gotta give it that Hawk Tuah, spit on that thing, you know what I'm saying? But I gotta say, it's pretty amazing the fact that our politicians, with every word they say, seems to drive us farther and farther apart. But one fucking comment about sucking dick is what can unite us all. Like, I have yet to see a negative comment about her. It's just a bunch of funny memes where I see her going like, hot tool, spit on that thing. But it cuts to something wholesome, like a fucking guy spitting on his golf club. And I can only imagine what other things that somebody could be spitting on. But maybe my algorithm is a little bit more holy than yours. But like, geez, when I fucking first heard it, I almost fainted. I was just like, yes! Finally, somebody gets it. Like, bro, why do you think Bill Belichick is going after younger chicks too? Because that's the standard that they've set now. Like, Bill was like 60 years, no Hawk Tuah. I'm gonna find somebody to give me a Hawk Tuah. Like, and then what happened? The first one that did it, now he's together with her. It's in the tabloids. But like, no joke, besides all of this, but when it comes to this poor woman, what she said was just so fucking funny just because of the way that she said it and how she delivered it. Like, it was just fucking perfect. I mean, women also seem to love her, and I think women love her just for the sense that she was able to say the quiet part out loud. Women, I think she might come across as like fearless or courageous just because she made a sexual remark in a public forum. And women shouldn't be afraid to talk about sex. I don't know, it just shows the case the fact that, like, yeah, women are not necessarily as innocent as we all think they are. And why shouldn't they be able to make a joke about it if they wanted to or not? Like, I don't know. If that was some dude who said it, it's fine. But at the same point, I mean, in that moment, you could tell, like, she was one of the bros. Like, that was a great comment. Low-key, it's probably a good thing that she took herself off of social once that shit aired. Because, I mean, I can only imagine the amount of pervs that were in her DMs that were going to be like, yo, I got something you can Hawk Tuah on. But it's also like, guys, she also said that she has feelings for someone. Now, I don't know if it's like a friends with benefits or if she wants more from an ex or what her situation is, but like if I'm her, if she really wants that dude, all she has to do is use all of this social media stuff to her advantage and just be like, yo, clearly you don't want my hawk tool, but I'm sure like 90% of the cis male heteros, whatever the fuck population, would have no problem with my hawk tool. So what's your problem here, pal? Honestly, bro, besides the obvious, this woman also seems like she's got a great sense of humor. There's only two scenarios that I have as to why this relationship is no longer a thing. One, it sounded like he had an issue with commitment based on the video, so that could be possible, number one. Or number two, they're from the unfortunate state of living in fucking Utah. And the only thing being sucked in that state is just the fun out of everything. I mean, my God. But I'll be honest, the only reason I want to even know what this poor girl's name is so I stop having to refer to her as Hawk Tuah Girl. Like, I'm sure she has a name. But here we all are calling this poor woman Dick Sucker, which in itself is degrading. So in that sense, I actually feel bad for her because now she's gotten this nickname that she just can't seem to get rid of. But I will say, I think this video kind of proves this theory that I've seen out there where attention is the new form of currency. And if you haven't heard of this theory, it's essentially that given social media and stuff, the more attention that you can garner to yourself or the more people that you can get to watch your stuff, then the more that you can get paid from companies who want to sell a service, or maybe companies looking to engage more users because they want to try and sell a service to like your audience, so then that way, so then maybe you can make money off of their commission or whatever. I have no fucking clue. So essentially, what I'm getting is the more that you promote yourself and make yourself more popular among the masses, aka harnessing your inner narcissism, then the more money that you could make as a general rule of thumb. I mean, influencers just make the most amount of money, and for what? Like, this is why TikTokers, YouTubers, media figures, OnlyFans chicks, they all get paid a handsome amount of money, and it's always just been due to the fact that they can just garner attention. And the problem that I'm seeing is that it's not just based on attention, because, like, let's be real here. There are some uggos out there who can make it big for like a second and then just fall off the face of the earth. That also tells you that the more attractive you are, the longer your career, quote unquote, might last. So I also don't necessarily know if attention is the new currency, but if attractiveness is the new currency. And part of this, I wonder, is also just due to like Kim K and what she was able to do. I mean, I genuinely have no idea what her mother did. I want to say she was probably in designer fashion or something. I have no idea. Somebody's going to have to look this up. Clearly, I know what her father did because of the whole Dream Team thing with OJ. But what did Kim do to get us all to fucking know her? What, she put out a sex tape for all of us to not enjoy? Literally, that shit was so mid. I said it before, I'm gonna say it again. That shit was so mid. But like, what, she's always just been kind of there. Like, somebody, please, for the love of God, just tell me why these people are so fucking popular. Like, why do we give a fuck about the Kardashians? Because, like, what was she? Literally was, like, just an influencer, wasn't she? Like, wasn't that her? Didn't she start it? And have all these people on Instagram just being, like, quote-unquote Instagram models and just making money by just posting a photo in a bikini. But you most likely have never even walked a runway. Like, I'm just curious on model status. What puts Kim K and Giselle at the same level? Like, that's my whole question here. And I'm also not trying to say that, like, you don't have to be good at what you do, because you could be good at self-promotion and becoming recognized. Hence why I'm not that popular yet, because I fucking suck at this. Like, I mean, if God knew that in my cards would be trying to do a podcast, why wouldn't he have given me multiple personality disorder? Especially considering that he would know that 90% of the time I'd be doing this podcast solo. At least it would give me some sort of basis to have an actual conversation with myself. But one thing I can't do is I can't just rely on my good looks and sparkling personality to help try and sell this whole thing. But it's also a tale as old as time, where this idea that we use physical attractiveness as a form of trying to gain more currency, it's literally just based on the fact that sex sells no matter how progressive you're trying to be in life. But I will say, I also think it might be a little bit easier for women to become quote-unquote influencers just by posting out a bikini pic, because like, you got a bunch of idiot guys like me who are looking at these women who are far out of their league going, I ain't got a shot in hell with this chick, but maybe she'll see that I liked her photo. And I'm not ballsy or dumb enough to try a DM. Like, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Yeah, well, you know what you also don't do? You don't throw passes into triple coverage. Because for every guy like me, there's probably 10 other ones, and that's a lot of fucking competition that I gotta play against. I'm not at a level where I know that I can make that throw, where I know it's gonna land in the bucket. It's kind of more of like a heaving to hope type of situation. But then also part of me wonders if it's just for the clout. Like, did you guys see that there was this one chick who posted a real dating application? I mean, no joke. The simple questions that you would see on any dating app, like on Tinder or Bumble, Hinge, whatever the fuck it was, astrological sign, do you drink, do you want kids, like whatever it was, she put out in a written document that you could fill out and send to her. She said she got 5,000 applications and she didn't accept a single one. So it's just like, holy shit. Out of 5,000 people, you couldn't find one needle in that haystack? But also, women are the only ones that could get away with this shit. Like, believe me, I'm way more shallow than a kiddie pool. But if I got 5,000 applications for somebody who wanted to date me, I would at least pick someone. Like, at the very least, I would have my year set up. But if I were to do that, I would get labeled as a pervert or a creep, which is so hypocritical considering the fact that we have shows like The Bachelor, which is pretty much Tinder on a televised setting. So if I did it, it would be like creepy and misogynistic. But when women do it, it's empowering and it's you go, girl. But it's also so funny to me because women say that men are disgusting for sexualizing them. But then you've got these sex-positive feminists also talking about how women should be able to sexually express themselves, like Hawk Tuah girl out there, and then they get mad at men for looking at them in a bar. Actually, holy shit, speaking of, I got a story for you. One night I'm bouncing, it's not super busy, so I'm not over by the front door, I'm just standing over by the bar where I can see the door. And I look over to my right, and I just see this dude with his fucking jaw on the bar. I'm like, what the hell is he looking at? And I turn my head to the left and I automatically just am fixated on exactly what he's fixated on. And it was hard to miss because there was this attractive girl sitting there and she's got her full titty out. And based on what I saw, the only reason as to why her boob was even out is because her shirt was just so tight. Like, the only thing I could compare it to is if you overstuffed an overnight bag. Like, that's kind of what it was like. So I think one of her boobs was just like, I just gotta get some air here. So I actually made the executive decision because I'm like, hey, if I got a ball hanging out, I would want somebody to tell me. So I went over to her. I had to kind of try and be discreet because I also didn't want to try and embarrass her considering she's hanging out with a bunch of her friends there too. So I just kind of like whispered in her ear. I was like, hey, not that I'm complaining, not that I'm not enjoying the view. And I'm also not trying to sound like a creep or a pervert, but I would want to know if my bits are out. And just so you know, your titty is full on out. And she was just like, oh my god, thank you so much for telling me, and just tucked it right back in. So the fight was still on. And never in my life did I ever think that going up to a girl and saying, hey, your titty is out, would have ever been my opening line to somebody. Because then she actually kind of kept coming up to me, trying to make conversation, just like, hi. Every time I walked by her, I was just like, hey. Knowing that she was more hammered than Thor. And then when I went to go pick up glasses over by her to help the bartenders with damage control, she kept like, I started calling her the Cranberries because I would reach my hand over the bar, she'd put her hand on mine, but it would just linger there. Just like, hey, like I kind of need my hand back. Not that I wasn't happy with it, but she was also very drunk, and I wasn't going to try and get involved with that shit. Ugh. Being a man of God also means knowing that these aren't just gifts that you're just brought upon, and that you have to have some sort of moral integrity. Oh, but then as I mentioned on Friday, I actually had to bartend, so I actually was able to actually talk to some of the girls at the bar, because they were just there. So, like, I'm trying to mingle and talk to them, but then we got fucking slammed. And when you're slammed at a bar, it's really hard to try and actually talk to people. You're just taking order after order after order. But when there is a little bit of a lull, you can kind of like talk to the crowd. And I see these groups of people coming in. I'm like, yo, these chicks are pretty good looking. But then as is to be expected, they're going to make their way to the bar because at some point they're going to want to order a drink. So like besides hi, what the fuck else could I possibly say that's going to make them like smile or strike up a conversation? So I use this bogus ass pickup line that I saw in a TikTok. And I'm like, hey ladies, from afar you look pretty good, but from up close you look far better. And they were just like, oh, why don't you just give me my drink there, buddy, huh? So I'm just sitting here like, all right, well, apparently 100% of the shots that I also take fucking miss. So I'm just in a bad spot here. But I was telling one of the other girls at the bar the story, and she was like, honestly, if I was you, I wouldn't waste your time with some of these girls here. So then I'm like, oh, Well, if I shouldn't waste my time with them, do you want me to waste my time with you? What are you doing? Like, you free? And she also was like, I don't know if I'm interested. I'm like, okay, well, if I can't have them, I can't have you. Then what the fuck am I going to be doing here? Like, what do I get? Uh, but I don't know, guys. You got to take some sort of shot if you're going to fucking hit a goal at some point, right? Like, I'm not out here trying to force a relationship. If somebody's not interested, they're not interested. But at the same point, I'm also not trying to just be like, I just want to be with somebody now. Like, considering the fact that I said I'm more shallow than a kiddie pool, it's also a matter of like, I'm also just trying to be out here, trying to find my perfect match. I mean, I don't know. We've all had heartbreaks in our lives, but it's also like, I don't know. I'm at an age now where I'm like over the one night stand stuff. I think I've talked about this before, but I'm just like trying to find something serious, and I'm so tired of like not finding the person that's like right for me. So I'm trying to, and I feel like a lot of it just comes from dating apps. Like, you go on a dating app, you date what, like 2 3 months, you match because you find each other attractive. Then you're like, all right, this person's hot. Let me go out with them. And then if they're somewhat normal, you're like, all right, let me continue going out with them because they're probably better than the other fucking 80% of whoever the fuck else is out there. And you kind of stick with it for about like a week. And then after that, it becomes like, oh, we've been going out for a week. It's becoming a little bit more serious. Like, the whole thought process of a dating app is you are going out to date, and the expectation is already set. So I'm trying to do the complete opposite, where I could just meet somebody more organically, even if it is in a bar setting. If I meet somebody while I'm working or whatever it is, and you kind of hit it off, you go out. Hopefully the person continues coming into the bar, or you just go out because you become like friendly because you've known each other for however long. Like, I'm trying to find something that's more in that realm where I actually make a real connection, and I'm not just trying to base it off of the way that somebody looks. But also do as I say, not as I do, because I'm shallow as fuck. So that doesn't help matters. I mean, let's be real here. There's a lot of shoes out there that are colorful and have a lot of personality, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to wear them because I think they're ugly as shit. But, alright, guys. I am actually exhausted. I gotta leave you on that note. If you liked what you heard, please share this with a friend. Find me on social. You can reach me at lnbemedia@gmail.com if you want to write in. Give me some ideas for the segments that I have, and I will catch up with you guys next Tuesday. I hope you have a great week, and thanks for listening.